What's up, Jags fans? Today we're talking about people I hate as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Let's get right into it. So this list can be a combination of people who were involved with the Jaguars or people we had to play, people who are only kind of related to the Jags. These are just people or groups of people that as a Jags fan, I hate, and I'm sure you guys will hate too. So I'm sure there won't be too many surprises in this list, but if I missed anyone, please let me know in the comment section down below because I'm sure I did. And also for context, I wasn't a fan until I was probably 5 to 7. So let's say my fandom didn't start until 03, 04. Okay? So just keep that in mind. I'm sure there's some people in the 90s that I missed. So let me know which ones those are for someone who missed those years of watching the Jags. So number one, I'm going to get the obvious out of the way. That's Jalen Ramsey. Okay. I loved this guy when he somehow fell to us in the draft. He was an amazing player. And maybe the real answer to this is Tom Coughlin's lack of ability to adapt to a modern day NFL. But I couldn't put Tom Coughlin on this list because he did do a lot of things for us as an organization and was an amazing coach for us. It's just, he's not fit for today's NFL, today's social media landscape, today's modern day player. And Jalen Ramsey is kind of the epitome of that from a diva standpoint. And that was just like oil and water, horrible combination. And so because of that, we got to see the worst sides of Jalen Ramsey. And there was a lot of highs, but the lows were absurdly low when he faked an injury to get out of here. You obviously hate to see that. We got a bit of trade compensation for him. Like we got ETN, but we also got Kayvon Chason. That really worked out for us. So Jalen, slimeball move to fake an injury to then get traded. I understand he was pissed with Coughlin, but yeah, he's got to be number one. He's got to be enemy number one. In my eyes, I was grateful. I loved him when he was on our team. He's one of those guys, you love him when he's on your team and you absolutely hate him if he's not. He's an instigator and he's pretty good at that. So Jalen Ramsey, you are who I hate most. Thank you. The next one, if this guy wasn't as likable as he is, he would have been number one for me, and that was Peyton Manning. Because growing up as a Jags fan, we were forced to play the Colts in prime Colt era, prime Peyton Manning era. And every single game, it was so hard to watch. We lost the vast majority of them. And even the ones where we were winning up until the end, I never once felt confident that we are going to be able to finish the job and get out of there with a win. Because Peyton always figured out a way to go down the field, march, and score. And he always did. Like he almost always did. I never felt comfortable when there's any time on the clock and we were playing Peyton Manning. And that happened way too frequently. The sole thing that the fond memories I have of Peyton Manning was the few times that we did beat him when I was watching, because it just seemed so big because he had our number so many times. Peyton Manning has to be number two because he just broke my heart so many times and he was so good. It was so annoying. Even when we had really good teams, he always found a way. And also he really underlined how poor our quarterback play has been over time, because you got to see every single year true elite quarterback play and how different our offense has always looked. So Peyton Manning, I hate you. You're kind of funny, but I hate you. The next, and this is a huge one, is the NFL referees, especially when we're playing against big name teams. So picture the Patriots in 2017, Colts, pick any year, and then more recently the Chiefs. Like those teams, the favoritism is almost undeniable, especially if you go back to the 2017 New England Patriots playoff game. That thing was absolutely ridiculous. There were multiple calls that totally shifted the game and it almost made it impossible for us to win. The Miles Jack wasn't down. Obviously, we love to talk about that in the Duval community, but it's true, he wasn't down. And even Tom Brady has since come out and said that he wasn't down. Play the clip.
2017 AFC Championship game. Yeah. And the Jags fans probably love this. I'll take opportunity. Miles Jack, was he down?
Is the knee? Oh no, I don't think he was down. Oh God, I don't think we were catching him either. I ran over. I sure as hell wasn't going to tackle him.
Thank you, Jaguars Nation. There you go.
I know.
From the man. It's not your fault. It's the ref's fault.
I know. They're trying to get it right.
And then, not to mention that wasn't the only horrible call. There was also a massive pass interference call that should not have been called for multiple reasons. So if a ball is uncatchable, it can't be pass interference. And if the receiver steps out of bounds, they can't be the first person to touch the ball anyway. So both those things transpired on a play that they called pass interference for like a 40-yard gain in a very integral part of the game against AJ Boye. And there was more calls that were absolutely tragic. So that was one of the hardest things to watch. But as a Jags fan, you knew those calls were going to go against us because we're just a smaller market team. And no one really wants to see us win. Like the NFL doesn't win if we win as much, right? As if these big names do. There's more brand appeal. And it's very obvious when that takes place. It's hard to watch. And even when you see it happening, you know it's going to come, but it hurts you just as much. So the refs, it's blatant at times. that we don't get that favorable treatment. I'm sure every fan base says this, but if you go look at those specific situations that I mentioned, like recent Chiefs games and crazy amounts in that Patriots game, you'll see what I mean. If you can look through that with even a slightly objective lens, there's like 3 or 4 calls that were wrong that had a massive outcome on the game because Brady was supposed to win. So love that. And the next is kind of a connection to that, and it's the NFL in general. The NFL hates the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is so blatant in terms of how little coverage we get. And I understand the fan base isn't as large, but you'd think you'd want to grow that fan base, especially with us trying to be Europe's team and in particular UK's team. But whenever we are drafting, we go to commercial all the time. It's a running bit. The coverage is almost non-existent. We don't get primetime games. Like there's so many things that it's almost like we're the forgotten stepsister in the world of the NFL. So those are the biggest things. It's just very clear and obvious that we're not one of their favorites. And it's also, sometimes it's like, what do we have to do to become one of your favorites? It almost seems like it's impossible, but hopefully we can string a few good years together and become a little more favorited. But the NFL, I love you and I hate you. I hate you in particular because I'm a Jags fan. If that makes sense. The next one is no surprise to anyone who watches Jaguars football. And this is like, this guy pulled off possibly the biggest scam in the history of sports. And that was Urban Meyer. Him coming in and doing whatever you can call what he did is actually kind of impressive how bad it was. Like the culture was just incredibly bad. It almost seemed like he didn't care or didn't know what he was doing. It was just an absolute cluster of just so bad. It was so hard to watch and I was so optimistic. And it also really hurt Trevor Lawrence's progression. And so I think that's another thing that we need to think about as Jags fans is that that was almost like a step back for Trevor rather than a step forward when he had that time under Urban. So Urban Meyer, I absolutely hate you. From a Jags perspective, I don't know you as a person, but you royally screwed us. You bent us over and you did what you could. The bigger connection here is not, I don't hate Shad Khan, but all of these decisions that he's made show you he's not a football guy. And so he tries to rely on who he thinks is football guys, but it's almost like the cliche, like the nerd picking who he thinks the football guy is, if that makes any sense. Like he knows so little that he doesn't even know how to distinguish between the right people for the job. And so he goes to like optics, right? And then there's so much nuance when it comes to understanding football and it comes to understanding situation dynamics of who would be a good fit with other people. And it just seems like he has no pulse on that because he didn't grow up in the football world. And it's evident when you hear him talk about football. Like he's not a football guy. He's a guy who liked football, who bought a team. He's not a football guy. And that's very evident in the hires. And Urban Meyer was that to a T. He looked at this, saw a shiny toy, and was like, oh, this guy had so much success in college. It'll be great. He wants to work with Trevor Lawrence. It'll be awesome. I think he kind of thought like he looked like a genius, and he could not have been more wrong. Urban Meyer, you screwed us so hard. And to add insult to injury, I'm a Michigan fan for college, and to see, it was just like, it was so hard to watch. So hard to watch. I know you can sympathize with my pain. He's kicking kickers. He's doing all these things. Not the best dude. Urban Meyer, a Jags fan, I hate you. And the last one is kind of a little wild card here, and it is, I hate the Nike designers that designed our uniforms for the late 2010s. That was horrendous. Those were so ugly, and you were doing way too much. And it was so evident, and those aged like milk. Those were absolutely horrendous, and they made the bad years even worse. And then even when I look back on our one good year in 2017, it's like, why did we look like that? So whoever did that for Nike, I hope that you have completely shifted your approach to design. And I also will give this lesson too. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So our old retro unis, which finally we're getting back this year, were beautiful. They were absolutely fantastic. And we went so far off those. I'm looking at them right now and my God, are they ugly. The two-tone helmet, actually I got one here. Like they try to do way too much with the story. They're like, oh, and also this is like a poorly made one, but it's supposed to be black and then it fades from matte black to gold. And they just missed everywhere. Like it just looks so cringe. Like not iconic, not brandable, not something that has any sort of staying power. It just made us feel very temporary, transparent, and kind of like a laughing stock. And you look at all the perennial powerhouse teams, they've got simplicity in design that really hits home. We did not have that. So that's my list for the most hated people as a Jaguars fan. Who did I miss? Please let me know in the comment section down below. And if you just want to rant about why you hate the people I included or anyone else, let me know. This is Dirty Duval, the place for Jags fans. And I am Ben. I will see you in the next episode. Duval! Peace.